more try.
Safety in numbers.
There it is. That's scary.
Lifeweaver still sucks.
So, Lifeweaver, Overwatch's most handsome character and my personal favourite, has had a rough time finding his place within the cast. He just doesn't fit. If his balance was as good as his looks, I don't even think I'd be making this video. But I want to use this as almost a rant to discuss the problems I have with his kit and the things I think the developers could do to fix him long term. I would like to preface this by saying I'm not a top 500 player, nowhere near that, and it'll show in my opinions. Before we get into that, I think we need a brief history on the character first, just to get us familiar. If you're already familiar with him, just skip to this timestamp. Here we go. So to begin with, Lifeweaver is a support character and was released in Season 4. On launch, many of his abilities function differently from how they do today, with one of the worst control schemes I think a character has ever had. Man, there are a lot of buttons. I'm going to explain each ability one by one and then move on to balance changes he's received following this. So, Healing Blossom, his primary source of healing. It had a max heal of just 50. It had to reload after 12 shots, locked onto teammates, and had a charge up time of 1 second. This was just underwhelming. In the creator preview before the season released, his charge up time was even longer at 1.2 seconds, but thankfully this was changed. And on top of this, a slow was applied when you began to charge a Healing Blossom shot. Next is his main source of damage, Thorn Volley. It did 5 damage a shot, shot 2 projectiles at a time, and had a magazine size of 60. Also, there was an inactive auto reload of 1.5 seconds when either Thorn Volley or Healing Blossom were being used, meaning that alternating between the two was the best way to keep your uptime high. Thorn Volley is probably the ability that feels the most similar to Release. Petal Platform, his old secondary fire, was also pretty similar to its current day function. You place it down, step on it, and it sends you up. The ability does have its flaws, as it requires a certain amount of space overhead to allow you to use it. This causes problems in places such as staircases, where sometimes it doesn't activate. Also, with the ability being a throwable projectile, sometimes, mainly on King's Row, it bounces off of small objects, with the most annoying one being the curb. Petal Platform was one of the most unique abilities and still is today. The dreaded Life Grip. Life Grip is, as it sounds, an auto-locking grip similar to his Healing Blossom that pulls a teammate to you. On release, Grip was missing many quality of life features that stop you from pulling a teammate off of the map. However, in some cases this is still possible today. Also, some interactions were different. The main one was that you could grip Ryan during his shatter, which was interesting, to say the least. Rejuvenating Dash is one of his most power-crept abilities, but I'll get to that later. On release, it healed you for 25 and was a lunge similar to Hanzo's. Using the initial control scheme for the character allows you to activate this ability without the need to be in air. His ultimate, Tree of Life, functioned much differently than it does today. It healed for 150 when placed down, and every pulse after that healed for 50. The tree had 1000 health. The most important thing, it could be destroyed by EMP. On release, this was very lackluster, as the amount of heals were not it, due to it pulsing every 1.75 seconds, which isn't very fast. And finally, Parting Gift. His passive that lasted a whole 2 weeks before being sent into the Blizzard Void to never be seen again. Parting Gift would drop upon Lifeweaver's death and would heal allies for 250 if picked up and enemies for 75. Now we are going to take a quick look into the differences between current day Lifeweaver and him on release. Firstly, his control scheme changed, moving Thorn Volley to secondary fire, Petal to shift, and you must be mid-air to dash. Healing Blossom. Auto reload time increased to 2.5 seconds. Healing Blossom ammo increased from 12 to 16, and the slow starts after 1 second of holding a heal. Max heal increased from 65 to 80. Thorn Volley. Thorn Volley projectile size reduced to 0.1 from 0.175. Damage increased from 5 to 6. Projectile speed increased from 70 to 80 meters a second. Petal Platform. Projectiles can no longer pierce the platform. Rejuvenating Dash. Heal increased from 25 to 60. Life Grip, cooldown load from 20 to 19, heals a grip target for 50, and Ryan can no longer be gripped during Earth Shatter. Tree of Life, health increased to 1200 from 1000, pulses increased to 90 from 50, 50% of overhealing is converted into overhealth at a maximum of 100 and can no longer be destroyed by EMP. Parting Gift, removed. As you can see, since release, Lifeweaver has received an enormous amount of changes which have improved the character massively, but there are still many big issues. The next section of this video will contain my opinions on the character's problems and what I think the devs could do to improve him, so enjoy. The first and most glaring issue that the character faces is the kit being centered around reactive plays and not proactive plays. Problems arise from this because it makes Lifeweaver feel awful to play against, as he essentially has a lock-on undo button. Issues like this were also found in Kiriko's kit too, with Suzu, but I will touch on Life Grip more later. As well as Lifeweaver's kit feeling awful to play against, he's also not very rewarding to play as. Healing being lock-on completely removes any sense of achievement from that part of the kit, and his damage being so minimal just means that cool or impressive kills are few or far between, with the slow weapon swap not helping. Grip, Petal and Tree, while not being rewarding in their traditional use cases, do have niche interactions which do feel good to pull off. These range from using Tree/Petal to cancel a Sigma ult, raising an Orisa into the sky with Petal, or my personal favourite, displacing teammates when shattered using a combination of Grip, Petal and sometimes even Tree. But there is a problem. All of these plays come at the expense of the enemy's enjoyment. Even though most or all of your kit's being used to perform these actions, it just feels awful to play against. However, this discussion veers a lot into the issues of tank, where they feel awful to play, but they are not bad balance-wise. But in Lifeweaver's case, balance-wise he is not good, but god does he hurt to play against sometimes. I've briefly touched on Grip, but I think it's time to have a deeper look into its issues. As stated previously, it's rewarding for the Lifeweaver player, but at the expense of enemies' enjoyment, as there's little to no counterplay with the ability. Other than baiting it out, what can you do? Not only this, Grip sucks to play with. If you have a Lifeweaver on your team, you have to pray to God that they have an ounce of game sense, otherwise you're in for one miserable match. This also goes both ways. You, the Lifeweaver, may have made a good grip, but if the person you grip doesn't agree, it is common for them to throw or complain after the fact. These factors just show how flawed of an ability Life Grip is. Petal sounds like a good ability on paper, until you remember the reality of trying to coordinate in an average Overwatch match. Trying to get a teammate to use a Petal is a monumental task which results in little to no gained value, as by the time they have jumped onto your Petal, the window of opportunity is lost. Due to this, the ability is mainly used for yourself and occasionally to stop or hinder an enemy's ultimate. The main issue with this ability is that there's nothing attractive about it. No damage boost, no nothing, so there's essentially no reason to coax a teammate onto it. This ties into a later discussion point that I will get into. Lifeweaver pre-Season 9 was very annoying to play against, and I do think the frustration has lowered in a post-DPS passive world, mainly because dueling a DPS with a Lifeweaver pocket without the DPS passive was very difficult. Unlike Ana, Lifeweaver has auto-locking heals, essentially meaning that they hit 90% of the time, so without anything to cut through such intense healing, the target was essentially unkillable. Even if you aren't in a 1v1 scenario, such long sustain was unhealthy for the game as teamfights dragged on for a long time, which was especially the problem in Season 7. After Season 9, Lifeweaver has lost the majority of his power and is sitting with Mercy in the bottom tiers of support characters. The DPS passive has caused Lifeweaver to lose most of his team-wide sustain, so keeping characters up is very difficult. For most other supports, this has allowed them to weave in more damage and discourages heal botting, but in Lifeweaver's case, it's just emphasised heal botting, giving him less of a chance to deal any damage. Lifeweaver's kit is too centred around his potential healing output, which has hurt the character in the long term, with the Season 9 patch essentially being the final blow to his viability, making him an extremely survivable Illari turret. It has been hinted to that Lifeweaver was an inherited character from the Overwatch 1 team, which has cursed him in the long run. The design philosophy of the characters, mainly supports, has shifted since Overwatch 2 has gotten going, with Lifeweaver serving as a relic of the past and showing why such a character design is not healthy for the game. One of the main aims the developers had with Lifeweaver was to make a character similar to Mercy, which I do think they've achieved, but it's not a good thing. One of the main aims the developers had with Lifeweaver was to make a character similar to Mercy, which I do think they achieved, but it's not a good thing. Mercy is a good introductory character as players require little to no mechanical skill to extract value from her, but the character teaches you awareness and game sense in a very manageable and understandable way. Lifeweaver, while similar to her, has only inherited her problems, with his big problem being a lack of transferable skills. Both Lifeweaver and Mercy struggle from this pitfall, with it being more prevalent on Lifeweaver's design. I don't want to get into it, but the stem of this problem is grip. Parting Gift was one of the biggest mistakes with the character at launch, as it made Lifeweaver the main target for flankers such as Tracer and Sombra. It essentially made Lifeweaver a mobile health pack with its ability to heal enemies. Maybe we could see this passive return with some core changes, but only time will tell. Current attempts to fix the character were either too little or too much. Season 7 changes were too much due to the high sustain, but post Season 9 the buffs have made minimal changes to his power level. The character is one of the most hated within the community gameplay wise, which can be seen whenever his balance is brought into question. During the recording of this video, Aaron Keller and Alec Dawson had an interview on the Group Up podcast. During this, changes to Lifeweaver were mentioned.
Lifeweaver is getting changes in the next season, which I don't know if he just means balance or some playstyle adjustments. We'll see. Hopefully some offensive play would be nice.
My main hope for this is that we see changes to Petal that makes it more alluring to your team. This could be giving teammates a damage boost or fire rate boost while on the Petal. I'm no developer, so I have no clue what they're cooking up, but I just hope they're acknowledging our pain points with the character. Lifeweaver has gone through many ups and downs within his first year in the game, and it seems like the devs have finally gotten around to addressing the pain points of his kit. With that being said, I'm intrigued to see what route they take in Season 12 and what changes the character receives. Let me know your thoughts on Lifeweaver in the comments, and I hope to see you next time. Goodbye.